What is up, guys, and welcome back to another CB650R motovlogs video. And today we're doing something a little bit special, which you would have seen in the title. I'm going for my red P's for my motorcycle. I'll get into, for people who aren't in Australia and aren't sure what like L's and P's are and stuff like that, I'll get into that in a minute. But basically, so I'm currently on my learners, and so that's one of the talking points I'm going to talk about today, is being on learners and the type of bikes we can have here in Australia while on your learners. So in Australia we have a scheme, and it's called LAMS, which is learner approved motorcycle scheme. So there is a certain criteria that motorcycles have to meet to be able to be under the LAMS scheme. So in order for a bike to be LAMS approved and for you to be able to ride it, not only on your learners, but also when you are on your red P's, which you do for 1 year, and then green P's, which you do for 2 years. I should have had my license a long time ago. So I first got my motorcycle license in 2008. It's kind of showing my age a little bit, but there was like circumstances here and there as to why I didn't get it. But anyway, like I've had my L's like 4 times, and there's always been, for one reason or another, why I wasn't able to get my learners, my provisional license, which is what the P's is. Anyway, I kind of sidetracked there. But yeah, anyway, I'm going for my provisional license, my P1 license, as they also call it. So yeah, I'm just going to sort of explain to people who aren't in Australia how our sort of motorcycle licensing works. I could be wrong, and I'm happy to admit it if I am, but I've had my license a couple times and I've worked for the government department who deals with licensing, so at the time of the recording it's correct anyway. So for a bike to be learner approved, it has to have a power to weight ratio of 150 kilowatts per ton. That's the power to weight ratio that has. Essentially, so you can ride up to a 660cc bike. So essentially you can ride, so like this is obviously a 650. MT-07s are like I think they're 669 or something like that. I can't remember exactly what they are. So they're, no, maybe they're not. I'm not sure now. Now I gotta find it out. I should know. I've had 2 of them. But basically, you can ride those, but they're heavier than like a normal 600. So like an R6, for example. Obviously an R6 in terms of displacement is lower than like this bike and a MT-07, but they're much lighter. I'm not too sure on how the engines make the power. I'm guessing a lot of it comes to bore and stroke, the bore and the stroke of the engine. But one thing that they do here is, so with this bike, for example, this is ECU flashed to be de-restricted, whereas in countries that this isn't for a learner, like it's a full, you know, you can ride it on a, whatever the equivalent of an open license is, it will have the full beans. I need to look it up. I can't remember exactly the power they make, but like they make somewhere in the range of like 30 or 40 horsepower. Like it is not much at all. Either 30 or 40 horsepower or kilowatts. We normally speak in kilowatts in Australia, but every now and then they like to use horsepower to make the numbers sound more impressive. Anyway, I digress. So essentially this is like a 650cc bike that is heavier than like your R6s or GSXR 600s. This, I believe, weighs about, if it's not 200 kilos, it's close to it. I've had other learner bikes. My first learner bike I actually had was a Honda 650, and that was 212 kilos. I think it went with the full tank basically. Whereas like an R6, back when I used to look at R6s, they were like 180 something kilos. I don't know how much they are now. But yeah, obviously very light, very much lighter. Why can't I talk? A lot lighter, and therefore the power to weight ratio is different. Because I see people in America like talking about, is an R6 a good bike to learn on? I've ridden an R6 and I've also ridden a GSXR 600, and I'm kind of being careful with my speed. It's double the merits. It's the day before Anzac Day here, so yeah, like everything is doubled, like the fines are doubled and the demerit points you incur for a fine are doubled. So I just have to be a little bit more careful with what I'm doing. Yeah, so I've ridden an R6 and a GSXR 600, and they are both, compared to this bike, worlds apart in terms of the speed. Like it's just, there's no comparison. Granted, I was like 20 kilos lighter when I rode both of them. But yeah, still, even if I was as heavy as I am now, it still wouldn't have made a difference. Which is kind of why I wanted to make this video. I wanted to talk about is the learner approved motorcycle scheme. Is it a good idea or is it a bad idea? Like there's going to be pros and cons to everything, but having owned like I've owned so I've had a GSXR 600, like I've owned one, and I was riding around for a little bit with that one, but I've owned so I owned a Honda 650, which I unrestricted. I had a Kawasaki ER6N, which I unrestricted. I had the 2016, the CB650R, which I mentioned in a previous video that I'd had. I've had two MT-07s, and now I've got this. Both MT-07s, by the way, were unrestricted. This bike is restricted. Hence the reason it's got that bit of a dead zone in the RPM meter. But that's for another video. I'll talk about that that I'm working on. And like the unrestricted versions, like especially of the MT-07s, like I'm not a small person. When I had them, I was like in the 90 kilo or 200 pound mark, roughly around there. and they could power wheelie in first and second gear with me basically hovering over the tank. Like, I wasn't sitting back to try and lift it up. It would lift up under the sheer torque and power of the bike. MT-07s are a bit of a freak for that though. Like, they are known as a bit of a wheelie machine. But I think that the learner approved scheme is like kind of, I think it's the pros outweigh the cons. If you are a motorcycle rider, you're probably going to disagree with me, especially if you're on your learners. But like, if you're new to riding, like the legal age to start riding here is 16 and 9 months, and everybody wants the fastest thing they can get, right? In Australia, we already see a lot of fatalities of people on motorcycles, which is just a really sad thing to see and to hear. I don't know if those people are learner, like on their L's or P's or their full license riders, I don't know. But if you were to chuck a basically 17-year-old or even like young adults straight onto a bike that has like an R6, for example, like I've been riding for a long time, so I am quite used to the power of higher powered motorcycles. I've ridden a Hayabusa as well, but if you chuck a young adult onto something like an R6, it just opens up a world of potential issues. It's not to say that it can't happen on bikes that aren't learner approved. Obviously it does. Like, you know, it's no secret that motorcycles are very quick at accelerating, and can, you know, get to some high speeds. That's not a secret. But if you were on a motorcycle that can reach, I think the R6 has a top speed of like 200 and I want to say 250 kilometers an hour. It could be more than that. I did watch a video on someone testing top speeds of all different motorcycles, and I think the R6 was 250 around there somewhere. Might be higher, might be lower, I don't know. I'm happy to be told otherwise. But if you can be a fairly young person, inexperienced especially, it can potentially be a recipe for disaster. Not always. I'm not saying that it always happens, but it can potentially happen. A lot of the times, especially in Australia, like I see American YouTubers motovlogging and stuff like that with these massive open highways. As you can see from right now and like previous videos that I've done, we don't really have that here. We don't get massive open highways. Even on our freeways, there's still a lot of traffic on them, and it's gotten better now than what it was back when I first got my license. But for the most part, drivers do not care and are not looking out for motorcycle riders. I've had a couple close calls when I did have my first motorbike, and I do know that a lot of people getting their license transition from like dirt, from motocross to the road, again, very different. If you're riding on a motocross track or a like just motocross trails or something like that, you're out there with people who are like-minded, who are there for the same reason that you are. They're looking out for one another. The motorcycle community, whoa, see, and that's exactly what I mean. Like, this is what I mean when I say that people don't care about motorcyclists. Yeah, when you're doing that, you're with like-minded people who are looking out for you. Whereas cars, like this one for example, didn't care. Like, probably didn't look, had a quick look and thought, you know what, I can squeeze half my car in there. I'm gonna pop the rest of my car in. And that's kind of what it's like here in Australia. People just do not care. But yeah, I don't know, like I still think LAMS motorcycles are a good idea. If you're lucky enough, there is there's a criteria that you can meet, and fortunately enough for me, I do meet it. So I only need to do my red license for 1 year. So I had to do my learners, which obviously like I'm on now, and then I do my reds for 1 year, and then I just graduate for my full license. So after 1 year I go into so I live, obviously I'm in Australia, specifically New South Wales. We have a government department called Service New South Wales, and after a year I go in, and they just upgrade my license to an open license. Whereas like if I can't remember what the criteria is. It might be you have to have an open car license and be of a certain age, or held your motorcycle license previously or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but if you don't, you do, like I did mention it earlier, you do your learners for a minimum of 3 months, maximum of 12. Then you do you do your red P1 license for 1 year, and then you do your P2, your green Ps, for 2 years, and after that you upgrade your license. Any license testing happens between so you do your pre-learner license, which is a 2-day course, which basically teaches you the fundamentals of riding a motorbike. I'm not sure what it's like in other countries. I'd actually be interested to know like what requirements you have to meet to obtain a motorcycle license. And then once you've done that, you go and do you complete a computer test, and then from there you do your pre-provisional test, which is what I'm doing today, and then you do a test called the MOST, which I believe stands for the Motorcycle Operator's Skills Test, I think, which is basically an on-road test with instructors and the group that you're with, and then you get your P1 license. But yeah, even if I was in a place where I could go straight to like an open license, like I mentioned, I have had a GSX-R 600, and I got it after not riding for a couple of years, and there was a couple times where, I'm not gonna lie, it scared me. It was very fast, and that's only a 600. You know, you can only begin to imagine how fast like 1000cc bikes are. Like a lot of the top 1000cc bikes in the world can do like 150, 160 kilometers an hour in first gear, and have like a top speed of like 300 k's or something like that. Some of them a little bit more than that. But yeah, like that was only a 600, and it was still scary. So I don't know. I think that the learner approved motorcycle scheme is overall a good idea. At times, like now that I haven't had this for very long. I've only had this for a few months. I got it in February, so what are we now? It's like the end of April, so I've had it for February, March, April, so I've had it for 3 months. Why did I get a thing saying that I've had my license for 3 months? Anyway, February to March is 1 month away. I'm like just completely lost. Now that I've been riding for a bit, I'm used to this. I guess I wish it could be quicker, which I can do. Like unrestricting it makes it quicker, shooting it makes it quicker. Like there is ways to make the motorcycle that I've got quicker than what it is, without needing like a full-on balls to the wall 600cc motorbike. So like don't get me wrong, I'm happy with this bike for the most part. Again, I will be making a video about the things that I like and dislike about the bike, but for the most part I love this bike. Like, it's a lot of fun. It's got the power I need it to have when I need it to have it, which is probably the most important part, having the power there when I need it to be there. Like if I need to get out of like a sticky situation or anything like that. But I'm enjoying it so far. I really am. Even when I've had my previous LAMS bikes, obviously they're different. The highest sung was in a super sport riding position. The CB650F was the CBR650F, sorry, was in like kind of like a super sport position. It wasn't in a like as much of an upright position as this is, but still not full on super sport. And then the MT-07 and the ER6 that I had, naked bikes, obviously they're more upright than your standard super sport. So overall I'm enjoying this bike. Well, I did not realize I was in that high of a gear. Yeah, I'm sure I could really babble on about like LAMS bikes and the LAMS scheme for ages, but I won't, because ultimately no one probably wants to hear about that. So what I might do, I would pull over and do like a time lapse of my ride to there, but I'm kind of not super pressing for time, but I want to be able to get to the place and be able to practice a little bit, rather than just get there, because it starts at 8:30. I don't know how far away I am, because I'm not GPSing it there. I know where it is, and obviously I don't have like a quad lock or anything like that, so there's nothing on my bike. That's another thing actually, with the LAMS. So you can't use Bluetooth devices or have your phone in your view of any sort, and I actually got fined for this a long time ago when I had my license the second time. This is before AirPods were around, so I had just the wired Apple headphones giving me directions to where I was going. I can't remember where I was going, it was that long ago. It's beside the point. I got pulled over by the police. They were asking me what I was listening to. I said I wasn't listening to anything. I had my GPS going for my phone, and he said, you can't do that while you're on your L's. And I said, okay, how do I get to where I'm, like, I don't know. I know where I'm going, I know where I need to go, but I don't know how to get there. And that's basically my problem to deal with. So that's one thing. So, like, I mean, I have a Bluetooth device. I don't use it unless I absolutely have to. I connect my phone to it in case, like, you know, my wife or like a family member has to call me for something. But even then, it's not a very good Bluetooth one, so I can't really hear anyway. But Psycho. I think that was another CB650R. I think it was definitely a Honda CBR. But yeah, that's one thing. That's one thing I forgot to mention earlier. That is a con to being on your learners and provisional license, is that you can't use Bluetooth devices. Is it dangerous? If you're playing your music really loud, then yes, it definitely is. But I think it's important, like, even if you could use it as GPS, so you could just get directions as to where you're going. But yeah, that's it. I did put the baffle back in the bike. I'm not sure if you guys can tell in the video. It sounds a little bit different to me. I still like it. I still really like the sound of the exhaust, baffle or no baffle. But I kind of did it just to quieten it down a bit, because during the test today they give you a lot of instructions, especially while you're on the bike while it's running, and I want to be able to hear them. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to keep the video running, but I'm going to speed it up. So hopefully I can turn it into a time lapse. Yeah, before I do go, guys, I wanted to thank everybody who has recently subscribed to the channel, who's viewing the videos. You guys are all, like, absolutely amazing. Like, the amount of support you guys are showing is, like, just makes me feel so good. It makes me feel like, you know, what I'm doing is paying off. Like, you guys are enjoying the content. So I do want to thank you guys for that. But if you could, leave a comment down in the description and let me know what you want to see more of. I'm going to hopefully try, I don't know if it's going to go ahead or not, and get a video of me riding to one of our beaches. So I don't know if that's going to happen, because I was going to be going with my wife and in-laws. They were going to drive, so we'd be able to get some, like, awesome cinematic car shots. Yeah, shots from the car, not car shots. Yeah, so do let me know what you guys prefer to see. The night riding one, the morning riding ones, don't turn out as nice as I would like them to be. It is still a little bit dark. I did film a second one that does look better, but still, it still is quite dark. 7:30. I just wanted to make sure school zones haven't started. I believe they start at 8, because I'm coming up to some school zones. Yeah, let me know what you guys want to see more of. Do you want to see videos of me just riding and not talking, so you can hear the beautiful sounds of the CB650R and its exhaust? Or do you want to hear me talk just about random things like this video today? I do have an idea. I am going to do a video of 5 things I love and 5 things I like and 5 things I dislike about this bike. That's coming. I just need to get out and film it, basically. But until the next video, guys, hit like, hit subscribe. It helps out the channel massively. And yeah, don't forget let me know what you want to see more of, because I want to give you guys the content that you are after. There's no point me pouring content into something you guys don't want to see. Anyway, guys, until the next video, I'll see you again. Take it easy, guys. Ride safe and stay upright.